Please, when you're ready. Mr. Waldron, can you explain why you're here, what your background is, your expertise, and when you're ready, please begin.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to look at some statistical analysis. I worked with a team that's been looking at the voter manipulation, election manipulation since November of 18. I started looking at this issue in August of this year, doing a deep dive on several key areas with some of the electronic voting machine companies. And we started looking at some of the vulnerabilities that have been mentioned on the floor of the U.S. Congress and Senate that have been widely published in, publicly available documentaries. So we began looking at the problems immediately after the election, doing analysis on anomalies in the data. And then we also did some forensics on a couple of locations up in northern Michigan in Central Lake Township and Antrim, and then talked to folks at Star Township. And all this information is in affidavits as well, sworn affidavits. We began to look at anomalies in the voting systems. First thing we noticed was that there are 643 precincts in Michigan with a voter turnout above 80%, which is a little bit anomalous. There were 21 precincts that were over 90%, 10 precincts that had exactly 100% voter turnout, and 6 precincts that were over 120% voter turnout. We found four spikes in the analysis that exceeded the tabulation machine's ability to process that amount of votes in a timeline, and that was in Kent County, Macomb County, Oakland County, and Wayne County. There was a big move from 6:52 on the morning of the 4th. 16,000 absentee votes were processed. Between 6:52 and 7:49 local time on the 4th, an additional 213,429 absentee votes were processed, and this aligns with some of the observations that the previous witnesses made. And then at 11:15 that same morning, in a time period of about 8 minutes, which correlates to the time our previous witness, Miss Jessie, testified, there was 56,098 votes processed in an 8-minute period. Now, each one of these machines can process about 20,000 votes an hour, so you can do the math yourself, or it's in our affidavit. So the anomalous activity led us to believe that just looking at the data, that there were red flags for fraudulent activities, and we have subsequently asked for our team or someone else to do the forensic analysis to determine exactly what happened with those votes and those spikes that could not have been mathematically processed with the amount of machines that were present in the facilities. Our team also went up to northern Michigan to the Central Lake Township. We do have an affidavit from Miss Judith Koslowski. While we were up there, she had a tabulation or retabulation, and showed a pretty significant amount of change in the votes. We published an affidavit with those key elements that showed differences in the data runs and the tapes, and I believe I've provided that to you as well. And then a declaration by Robert Marsh, the Star Township supervisor, a couple of the excerpts. When he said, upon examining the tape at the close of the polls, I could see that President Trump had clearly won the presidential race in Star Township. He said, I believe the numbers were 462 for President Trump, with Joe Biden receiving 161 votes. Normally, when a candidate has such a large lead, it's safe to assume who the winner would be. Early the next morning, my wife received a phone call from a friend asking what happened to Antrim County going blue, meaning Democrat. At 7:36 that morning, I was texting our stats representative, Tristan Cole, to find out if those were the actual results. At the time, Tristan advised me that the numbers were not right, that Antrim County was reporting 462 votes had been credited to Joe Biden, and President Trump had only received 10 votes. So we saw numerous examples of numbers moving, numbers being flipped and switched. As you realize, the Antrim County is where the 6,000 vote glitch occurred. And if you look at the numerous references in the guidelines for elections in the Help America Vote Act, the Federal Election Commission Voting System Standards, and the Federal Information Security Modernization Act, an error rate is permissible for 1 out of 125,000 ballots. And if you look at just what happened in Antrim County, the error rate was 8.3, so it puts it about 750 times the allowable limit. And according to the regulations, that should have disqualified. They went later and changed that from a glitch to a clerical error, which they kind of changed up the reporting on that a little bit. We found several other things using open source data. There is a gentleman named Eric Lutzen, and he has matched up a list. He started looking at voters above the age of 80 that were registered for voting and did vote in Michigan, and 17,327 Michigan voters also had a corresponding obituary. And I didn't print that whole thing out, but I can give you that website for the tabular data, and it's about 350 pages or so. This is the declaration of Miss Judith L. Koslowski, and it's signed and dated, and this declaration is under penalty of perjury. On election night, we close the polls after the absentee ballots have entered into the tabulator. We take our ISD cards to the machine and take them, the security fob, and the results of the electronic poll book to the county clerk's office that night. On Thursday, November 5th, I was contacted by County Wing of the county clerk's office and asked that I bring my tabulated locked ballot container and tabulator to the clerk's office for retabulation. Because of time constraints, a retabulation did not occur, and I was asked to return on Friday, November 6th. I was given the ISD cards and security fob. We set it up, and the retabulation began at 9. We finished at 8:55. The retabulation was done in the presence of the Antrim County Board of Canvassers, the Antrim County Sheriff, along with the Deputy Clerk, Patricia Marshall. At the completion of the retabulation, all the voted ballots from November 3rd, I asked that the Board of Canvassers was ready for me to close the poll and run the tally tape, which I did. It was at this time that I noticed a number of votes cast on November 6th had changed from the tape on November 3rd. So I stated to the board that the numbers had changed. The board did not respond to my comment. To this date, I still do not know why Central Lake Township was the only township that had to retabulate. Other township clerks asked me why I had to do this, and I could not explain. And that is item number 5 on her declaration.
We can't get Dominion to come in and testify, and one thing that I would like to do is examine the machines to understand, because my belief is that if we could look at the machines, if we could examine their software, we'd have a good idea then of whether all this stuff is true or not. What can you tell us about the Dominion voting system?
We began looking at these companies, as I mentioned, the team that we joined that had begun studying this back in 2018 after the Kentucky governor's race, and then several races in Texas with the ES&S machines. We really started looking at the lineage of these companies and the code to the software, and they really seem all go back to Smartmatic, or SGO Smartmatic. They do have licensure agreements between Smartmatic and Dominion, between Smartmatic and ES&S, which is another major voting machine. And really the core of these voting systems are rife with vulnerabilities. I was an information warfare officer, so I looked at ways to penetrate, defeat, and corrupt other systems, whether it was through electronic warfare, through other means. And these systems are highly vulnerable to penetrations at multiple levels throughout the system. The easiest way and the most discrete way is USB drives. In classified systems in the military, I worked with both secret and top secret and other special access programs. All those machines had the USB drives deactivated. You could not use them just because of the critical vulnerability. These machines all work off of USB drives, and so we've found in dealing with Pennsylvania and in Arizona, there is no control, there is no chain of custody in the USB drives. Workers can stick a USB drive in. We could stick a USB drive into any of your laptops. You don't know what's on there, and you can change software, you can change operating systems with the USB drives. And the core of these systems is manipulability. This is the operator's manual and the implementation statement for 5.1. One of the myths that has been propagated even by the director of CISA at Homeland Security, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is that, well, these machines are not connected to the internet. In the operator's manual, there's a whole page of references that show you how and when to connect and what selectors to connect to servers and to routers, so it is connected to the internet. That's how you get election night reporting. That's through another company called Clarity Elections. They provide early reporting to the news media. Matter of fact, as I was looking at one of the counties where I saw the spike, I believe it's Oakland County. I was going to the Oakland County, the 2020 elections results, and I clicked on the elections results, and a warning flag pops up to the right side, and it says, "You're leaving this domain. You are going to clarityelections./mi." So the information for the counties in your state isn't really maintained or owned by your county and state, but rather a corporation that's owned by SOE Software and Scytl, SCYTL, which is a Madrid, Spain corporation. It went bankrupt in May of 2020 and was purchased by another UK registered company. So we've recently found, and we're digging further, that there was a $400 million financial transaction to Dominion Voting Systems in October, 1 month before our election. We're digging into that, but we know through some of the leaked information from the Panama banking system that SGO, Smartmatic, and Dominion both share a physical address in a small building in Barbados as registered headquarters. So these companies share licensing agreements. They share a common core of their DNA is the code, is the software. And I'll be happy to provide you an electronic copy of this operator's manual. And when you read through here, and you can see all the options that administrators and operators of these systems have, like some of the previous witnesses mentioned, they can vote blank ballots. They can delete data. They can They can mass adjudicate write-in ballots. And so it is designed to be inaccurate. It's designed to, if an individual or a team of individuals had a malign purpose, this would be the tool that I would want to use.